You've tuned into Tomcat Tales, the story of Ashland's legends from the gridiron, the court, the diamond, and beyond. It's a deep dive into Ashland Tomcat sports history. Now, here's your host, Mark Maynard.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome into Tomcat Tales. We have episode 23 here today, and I have a special guest with me. I have David Brown, quarterback of the 1990 state champion Ashland Tomcat football team. And, David, great to have you with us tonight.
Hey, great to be on, Mark. Great to be on.
It's hard to believe that it has been 30 years since since that championship. I mean, does that it can't seem like it for you either, I wouldn't think.
No, it really doesn't. I mean, it's hard to believe that much time has passed because I was listening to the podcast you had with Coach Marsh, and I think once you all mentioned it was 30 years, it actually kind of sunk in, and just kind of still disbelief that it's been that long. So
yeah,
I mean, seems like yesterday.
I know it does. It does to me too, and I'm thinking, man, 30 years ago I was only 33 years old. I wish I was 33 now. So, and here you guys are, and and it's hard to believe, that is actually the last time the Tomcats won a regional championship was your all's team. They have not won a regional championship since then. They have a pretty good opportunity Friday to do that. So, I think they'll probably get that Friday, but that's been a long time, even between regional championships,
Oh yeah. That's again, that's also kind of hard to believe. I know with the tradition and at Ashland and the great football teams they've had after us, it's kind of hard to believe they haven't had a regional championship since then. So yeah,
and they've had some great teams and great players, and they've won. They've won a lot more than they've lost for sure, but just can't quite. Johnson Central has been really tough on them here, and just can't quite get over the hump. 1990 though. What a season. And I know Coach Marsh, just from talking to him, he said, when the preseason started, he said, half you guys were still playing baseball. I mean, because I don't know, what was it Connie Mack you were playing, or where did you play? Where were you all playing at that time?
Yeah, at that time, it was Connie Mack with Coach Harmon.
Yeah.
So So to your point, I mean, a bunch of us, played different sports, basketball, baseball, the whole nine, and kind of given the talent of the team, we would pretty much go kind of late into the season, which would then kind of run into football. But one of the things I will say about the team, everyone was still dedicated. Although we were playing baseball, we still, wanted to get to the gym, stayed in shape, and definitely stayed focused on baseball, at hand, still had a mind on the football season, that was upcoming.
Yeah. One thing I thought about this team, and I thought at the time, and then as the season played out and everything else, just how athletic you guys were overall. Even the linemen were really, they played other sports. They were good athletes. It wasn't just a bunch of big guys, like it is on a lot of lines. I mean, you had some big guys, but, they were all very athletic. And I think this team, that was one of the strengths of this team, I think, the versatility in the athlete.
I mean, definitely. I mean, you had Stuart Hackworth, also good in baseball. You had Jimmy Bentine, played basketball. And, and to your point, Bobby LeMaster, the whole nine, most of us did play, more than one sport. So that definitely, I think, played in our favor. And, just, like you said, a really athletic team. Yeah.
Who did you play for in JFL?
The Jets, Steve Harvey.
Played for Steve Harvey, okay. And what about baseball? Who was your Little League coach?
Mike Lettingham. I played for the Twins. And then Babe Ruth played for Mike Tuffy.
Okay.
So we had and honestly, we had a good team then because my 12-year-old year, we actually won state in baseball. And represented Kentucky down in the South Regionals. We beat Georgia and got beat by Texas, or other way around. So we at least made it to 2 games down in Florida. And then again, we won my 14-year-old year. So I mean, just again, I think that just speaks to the talent, that we had in Ashland, the talent of the different athletes to play different sports, and also just kind of excel and exceed, in the different sports that we played.
Right. You were on the 86 team, the 86 Ashland American team.
Yeah, with Stacey France, David Smooth, Lynch.
Okay, yeah.
I
forgot that. I forgot you were on that. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty cool. I mean, what a team that ended up being. I mean, you guys came back from the dead in that game, in that state tournament. London, had to beat London twice, and what a team. Stacey Franz. I had a podcast with her earlier. I don't know if you listened to it. It's pretty good. Her
I didn't. I have to check that out.
It's really good. It's really good. Well, so and that's pretty nice. Like you say, even you kind of experienced some state championships, and I know it's different in every sport. And Steve Harvey, let's talk about JFL a little bit. Steve Harvey, he knew
Sure.
how to draft as well as anybody, and he taught the game well too, didn't he?
Oh, he did. So you had Steve Harvey, Greg Alley, I think, was his assistant coach. But, definitely taught the game. I mean, he was all about fundamentals and just, making sure you did the right thing and making sure you learned the game. So I remember playing, on the Jets with Jimmy Dentine and Chris Hutt. So definitely a connection there, played with Hutt for, many years. And, so great coach. And then just even the competition with the other teams. I mean, just playing against, Charlie and Juan and, everyone else.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, Stuart Hackworth was on the Jets as well. So I think we all just got an appreciation for each other. We were all competitive, but, really, like I said, competitive, but enjoyed playing against each other. But, yeah, Steve Harvey was definitely an excellent coach, and, like I said, it was really great to learn the fundamentals from him.
I can remember how proud he was of you guys when you won the state championship in 1990. He was on the field. He was so excited.
Yeah.
And he's
and
a
we
great guy.
came back to the locker room and talked to everybody as well. So
I actually played JFL with him. if that tells you a little bit about our age. So it's
okay.
It was a great guy.
And also kind of like going to your point too of just kind of like staying connected and kind of still kind of playing that role throughout life. When I lived in northern New Jersey for a little bit and connected with Steve Harvey when he lived in New York. So again, just kind of keeping that like lifelong connection to Steve Harvey. So definitely was a coach, but still just kind of kept that role and kind of kept that relationship throughout life. So he was really a good guy.
Who were some of the Tomcats that you looked up to growing up? I guess it'd be in the mid '80s. I guess like maybe Mike Johnson, maybe, and some of those guys. That was an awfully good football team they had.
Yeah, it was. I would say early '80s and mid '80s because my brother played in from '80 to '84 under Coach Marsh. So I think he was back in the era where Chuck Broughton, Chuck Broughton was quarterback. So just definitely looking up to to him and his teams and just kind of being in all the games. And I think that's kind of where just the Tomcat tradition really kind of started sinking in. And then, of course, like I said, when you were talking about mid-'80s, with the Mike Johnson and, Ryan Blakes, I think at that point I might have been a sophomore, eighth grade freshman, kind of watching those guys. And then I think sophomore on the team, as well. So it was,
That's when you starting to get a taste of it. You're seeing that, and gosh, that '88 game, which you were actually probably on the 90, 89. You were a sophomore, right? On the '88 game that when you all played Tomcats.
Yep.
And that
was a tough one. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a great game. Watching that one from the sideline, but again, just kind of getting a feel for for the game, for the tradition. And just kind of like the work ethic that Coach Marsh instilled and instilled all the players. Right.
So, '89 season, I know you started defensive back, that year, and that team, that was an interesting season. I think, that team really really put it together, about mid-season, and they moved Juan Thomas to the backfield, and things just, really, really changed, at that point, and the trajectory of that team just took off, and then you get the playoffs, and you're playing Belfry, and Belfry's, they're always tough, of course, and you guys lose 31-14 to Belfry, a very good Belfry team. They may have actually, I don't know if they won it that year. They did very well anyway. But did that kind of give you guys, you lose that game and it's kind of like, man, we're better than that. We can do better than this. How was the feeling after that? I know Coach Marsh mentioned too that Jim Benteen's father had died that week, and I think you guys had actually gone to the funeral that day. I think in support of a teammate, of course, and that might have taken some emotion out of you too, when you look back at it, I guess. But what's your thoughts about that game and how that season played out?
Yeah, and I guess to your point on the Belfry game and attending the funeral, that definitely was emotional. I think it did take some emotion out of us, because one of the things I do think, especially the 90 team, but also the 89 team, were very close, and we definitely support each other. So going through something like that, with Benteen was very tough, was very emotional. But the actual loss itself, I mean, it did sting. I mean, it's definitely something we thought about. I don't want to necessarily say we took it into the next season, but it's definitely something that we did remember, and it's a feeling that we didn't want to repeat in 90. So.
Right, exactly. So a 90 season, I mean, how it is in Ashland, people talk all year, and I don't remember. I mean, you had a lot of people back. I know that. Mm-hmm. I don't remember how the buzz was. I know we put you guys on the cover of the tab with we had Juan and Charlie and I think Stewart and maybe somebody else too. I can't remember. Had 4 or 5, and we had you in front of a Mack truck, and we said something like pictured on the cover some Ashland Tomcats and a guy, a Mack truck, and a guy who runs like one. Of course, we were talking about Juan Thomas,
right? Yeah.
And you guys know how you ran, especially you JFL guys. Hut was telling me, he said, we all dreaded playing Juan's team and Charlie for that matter, because those guys were hard to bring down now. I mean, I'm telling you. So, but
definitely.
Was there a lot of buzz about this team in the summer, before the season was starting, that this team could be really good?
I don't remember a buzz, Mark, but I think it's one of those things that internally we had a quiet confidence, because we played with each other for years, like I said, through JFL, middle school, throughout the time at up until the 90 season. And I think we knew we could be good, and there was just, like I said, we had our own kind of quiet confidence. So I don't really remember the buzz, but I do remember just, how we felt about, when we played together, and just, like I said, as we just kind of kept going through the season.
Did they talk state championship at all? Do you recall that? I don't remember anybody saying a whole lot like that. Oh, this team, they could win the state. When did that? Was it through the season before that really people started, maybe mentioning that or talking about that, or did they ever really?
It may have came up in maybe football camp, right? So as Coach Mark is kind of getting us, kind of prepped up and kind of amped up for the season, it might have been mentioned kind of at that point, but it's nothing we really dwell on. We just, as I said, I think we just kind of, we had that quiet confidence. I remember having a conversation with Stuart Hackworth in one of our classes, walking to or from, or whatever, just kind of mentioning that, we knew we could win, right? So it was just one of those things that, everybody had their assignment. Everybody, we were accountable to each other. And if we just kind of went out and played our game, that we just knew we could win.
Right. Right. Well, it's I like I said, I just don't remember that much talk about it, and maybe Ashland hadn't won in a while, so maybe that was part of it. Although, that '88 team, I mean, you think how close that team was really, and I think you all would have won it had you won that game. They'd have probably won it in '88 as well. So, a lot of talent was filtering through Ashland at that time, through the '80s really, '80s, into the '90s, and I know there's always the expectation that sure you'd like to do that, but it's just not something you say. Well, we got to win the state championship to be successful or whatever. That wasn't really that pressure wasn't there, I guess. And I asked Chris Hutt the same thing, and he kind of answered like you did. He's like, Coach Marsh may have mentioned it in camp, but it's not like, the goal was always, let's win as many as we can. Let's try to win the state championship. So it's probably.
Honestly, I don't even really remember talking about it like throughout the season. I mean, until we got closer, until we got into the playoffs. I mean, I think that was
right.
It became something that was a little more tangible, but again, I don't remember talking about it much.
Yeah, I mean, probably not till after that great Bell County game. After you beat them, then it's like, you know what, we could win the state championship.
Right.
Of course, the season turns really in the preseason. I think when they decide, we're going to run the wishbone. Obviously, that impacted you maybe more than anybody. Has you ever run the wishbone in your career? Even with JFL or anything?
I don't recall.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't recall running the wishbone before that.
Because Vic was more veer coach, or divide backs, and he ran some option, but not like what's going to happen with the wishbone. How did you accept that, and did you just think, okay, whatever you want to do, well, I'll try to do it, or what was your thinking on that when they said, hey, here's what we're going to do, we're going to put Charlie at fullback, and we're going to load this backfield up and we're going to run the wishbone.
I mean, with that talent in the backfield, Mark, I mean, you really can't say no, So with Juan, Hutt, and Charlie back there, I mean, just it's hard to kind of say no to that. But I do remember Coach Morris calling me in, early in that in the preseason, just kind of talking about switching to the wishbone and what that means. But really, once we kind of sat and once I kind of sat and thought about it, I mean, to your point, Juan, Charlie, and Hutt in the backfield. I mean, it's hard to stop. Hard to stop and hard to, and with the line we had in front of them, it's just right. It just made sense.
Yeah, so but it's a complicated offense for a quarterback. I mean, there's a lot of decisions you have to make. Do you make that? Do you make the first handoff to the fullback, or do you keep it? When do you pitch it? When do you? There was a lot. I think there was a lot on your plate. I mean, how hard was it for you to adjust to being that wishbone quarterback? That really was to me the key to the wishbone is quarterback and fullback. You got to have both those, or you can't run it. You got both of them have to be really strong positions for you to be successful at it. How did you become a good wishbone quarterback?
I mean, with the team we had, Mark, it's I mean, it made it easy, right? Because you got 3,000-yard rushers in the backfield, so a lot of people are going to be keying on them. And then we got the line, the awesome line we had with Bentine, Tex, Hackworth, Suman, and of course Jay Held center. So it's easy to do. I mean, and it gave us a bunch of different options, to run with. If they were keying too much on Juan or Hutt, and kind of that would free me up to run a few yards and then pitch it off to them. Because one thing we definitely did focus on that year was keeping pitch relationship. So no matter how far I went or where I wandered off to on the field, I knew Juan or Hutt was going to be close behind. So
right.
So that team made it easy to run.
I guess just the trust you had in them and they had in you, I guess, made a big difference, But there are a lot of nuances with it, and I don't know how many times, Dave, that you run the option and you would keep it for 20, 30, 40 yards, and then finally somebody catch up, and you just like blindly almost. It seemed like would pitch that ball out there, and then here'd come Hutt, or here'd come one, or and they go for another 20 yards, and I always felt guilty for you because they got all the yards. You ran at 40, they ran at 5, they get 45. It just didn't seem fair. It really didn't. But I know you didn't care or whatever. As long as you get the yards, right? That's all that matters.
Exactly.
I guess the other thing is, go ahead.
No, and to your point, it was a trust factor. I mean, because we practiced that, during practice so much. I mean, on offensive day, we would spend probably the first, maybe 10 minutes just running up and down the field, keeping pitch relationship. So, I mean, like you said, they trusted me. I trusted them. I knew they were going to be there. So I could almost blindly throw it out there and knew they would be there. So,
I mean, it's honestly very few fumbles from that. You all probably had more fumbles on inside plays than you had, on those daring pitches and everything. And this was still a predominantly power team, between the tackles kind of team, because that's just how it was built. When did you guys? How long did it take you to buy into? Hey, we like the wishbone. This is going to be good. Was it the practice, or was it after a couple games, or do you recall?
No, I think practice. Once we went into the wishbone, again, chuck it full back, hard to bring down. Juan, as another, part of the wishbone, speed and power, and just size, and then Hutt just with the speed. So I think it was one of those things that we all bought into it pretty quickly. Yeah.
Of course, the passing game was pretty much non-existent, really. And I remember kidding Vic about it, and about pass. He said, "Well, we pass all the time." He said, "That pitch, that's our pass. The option is our pass." So
yeah.
You threw 47 passes the entire season, and that's really remarkable when you think about it. But you guys rushed for 5,285 yards. So, and that was at the time, it was a top 5 in the nation record. I don't know where it stands now, but what a year really when you look back at it at trying to stop these guys. I would often feel sorry for some of those defensive backs when Charlie would break through, and he didn't run away from them, he ran toward them, and those guys would be backpedaling. Nobody wants to tackle that guy.
No, and he had such a low center of gravity, and you couldn't get underneath him. So I remember watching the film quite a few times where he's like bending people backwards as they're trying to tackle him. So he was tough to bring down. I
remember after the first game, y'all played Raceland, and you beat them pretty bad. And I was interviewing Bill Tom Ross, and he said tackling Johnson is like trying to tackle a rolling manhole cover. Pretty good description. I think so too, because how it just kind of goes everywhere, and you can't get your arms around it, and I thought that was the perfect description. Of course, Juan was that blend of power and speed. He's a once in a generation player, for sure. And and Chris was a great running back, in his own right, really. He had speed and power too, and you brought a lot of speed to it. I can understand why when you guys were practicing, I know Vic and Dave Arthur were like, "Oh my goodness," he said, when we saw, here comes Charlie, here comes Juan, and Hutt's behind them, running the ball. What high school kid can take that on?
No,
exactly. It's the truth,
and then with the line we had, our line was, the size they had, for high school. We're just, blowing just holes in the line for Juan, Hutt, and Chuck. And I mean, so it was just, yeah. I mean, it was yeah. Can't even find the words right now, Mark. So
I know. Yeah, the line was really good. You're right. I mean, it wouldn't really matter what offense you all ran, and I know you still ran some divide back and some veer sets and different things, along with the wishbone. But the season goes, and you like I say, you clobber Raceland the first game, and I think that was very eye opening for everybody. Not that just that you beat Raceland, but you beat them really bad. And Bill Tom, like I said, he was talking about. He said, "How do you stop these guys? There's just no way, that anybody's going to be able to hold them down." And you really, the next week you got to struggle a little bit against Boyd County, and it ended up not being a very good Boyd County team, but they hung with you pretty well, and you end up winning like 21-13. And then the next game you lose to Greenup County. It's your only loss, and I talked to Chris about it, and you look back on it, you're like, man, we should have beat them, But at the same time, he said it was a real wake up call, for you guys too.
Oh, it was. Actually, I think that was probably one of the better things that happened that season. Because as I said a little bit before, we had that kind of quiet confidence, but I think at that point we were getting a little too confident. Like I said, we knew the wishbone was working well. We knew we were a good team. Like I said, we blew out Raceland. We were winning. So, I mean, Greenup really was that wake-up call, like, okay.
Yeah,
it was that thing where, we can beat ourselves. And
right.
by looking over another team, that's the best way to do it. So at that point, it was like, let's focus. We can't look over another team. We just have to go out there and just play our game.
Right. I know Juan had a dinged up ankle, I think, in that game or something. He played, but he wasn't, as effective as he usually is. And Greenup was pretty good too. You can't discount that.
Yeah,
I mean, it was going to take a very good team to beat you guys, and I think they won 10 games that year. That wasn't that was not a bad Greenup County team by any means.
No. And not saying that to discredit Greenup at all, but I do think it was like one of those things where we kind of beat ourselves, So
yeah, oh yeah. You all fumbled several times and just didn't play well, really. I think you were still two or three touchdowns better than them. It just didn't happen that night. I think the next game, though, which was Ironton, it's at Ironton. Ironton is really good that year, as they always are, it seems like. And it's at Ironton, a tough place to win for any team, And you guys go over there, and, man, that was a great game. That's to me, that's one of the games I think about when I think about the 90 team, was that win over Ironton. And just how you all did it you had three guys rush over 100 yards. I doubt that ever happened again in Bob Lutz's career. That were
probably not.
Where three guys got 100 yards. It's hard to imagine, isn't it? Anybody else ever doing that? What's your thoughts about that game or memories of that game?
I mean, it was a great game. Because to your point, playing in Tank Stadium is always tough. Playing Ironton is always tough. And, we knew we were in for a game. And like I said, coming off the heels of Greenup, we knew we had, for one, like I said, always a great team. And we knew we couldn't look over Ironton. But again, it's like one of those things where we felt good about it. And, as long as, we trusted each other and just, as long as we knew we went out there and kind of played our game, we could, we could win it. And we did. It was definitely a fight, definitely a battle, definitely a great game, and one of the more memorable games of that season.
Yeah, and I think
especially in the regular season.
Yeah, definitely. It restored confidence, I think, don't you? I mean, any confidence that was lost in that Greenup County game came rushing back after beating Ironton, because they're just tough to beat. I don't care, And,
oh yeah.
And and it was a very good Ironton team. I looked through the rest of the regular season. The only other game I thought the regular season it was really tough. You all pretty much blew people out, except for Portsmouth. and Portsmouth was really good too that year.
Yeah. And before going to Portsmouth, something else about the Ironton game, something else was kind of memorable about it. Also, kind of like before that game, just kind of hearing how long it had been since Ashland beat Ironton in Ironton. So that's something else that kind of kept coming up. So that also felt good once we won that game, and kind of like to your point, that restoring confidence and kind of just restoring, just how we felt about the game. Just we kept hearing that, but we got the win. So
yeah, I think it was 74 was the last time. Yeah, it was the last time before that one that Ashland had beaten Ironton in Ironton. They'd beaten them a couple of times at Putnam, but that was the last time in Ironton. So, yeah, that was a long time. 26 years ago. That was my senior season, senior year. So there you go. But, yeah, that game did a lot for you guys for sure. Portsmouth, they had a kid named Estef at quarterback, Michael Estef, I think his name was, and he was good. That really, I thought that gave your defense, one of the toughest tests probably of the year, because they could play. That team could play.
Yeah. No, they could, and kind of to your point. I mean, defense was good, but also I think that kind of gave the DBs a test as well. I mean, we had Dwight Walters back there, of course, Chris Hutt, Brett Robinson. And so he, a passer that definitely gave the DBs a workout, because usually most of the time the linebackers and the defensive end and the line got most of the action, but it definitely gave our DBs a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like I say, the rest of the regular season was you guys were really just a lot better than everybody that's played. I think one thing that gets overlooked on this team, though, is the defense. You all had 3 straight shutouts, and do you realize this? That had not happened again until this season. So it had been 30 years since an Ashland team had shut out 3 straight opponents.
No, I didn't.
So that tells you a lot about the defense, I think, about how good your defense was. The offense it was just so spectacular the way y'all could run the ball that's all we ever wrote about was all the running game. It wasn't really the defense. Do you think that was the team kind of overlooked that way a little bit, or in people's eyes? I mean, you didn't have the fancy nickname like Jaws or anything like that, So,
well, I think there was a nickname of 911 defense.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. But to your point, I mean, it's hard not to overlook the defense in the sense of you got 3,000-yard rushers in the backfield. So I mean, the offense, the running backs did bring that sort of excitement, but the defense was tough. Definitely tough. I mean, also Stuart Hackworth, Herb Skaggs, a linebacker. Defensive line. You had Juan and Benteen at the defensive ends. It was a tough defense. Right.
Hard nosed.
It's just it was. It was a hard hitting team. Too. I thought you all played very physical. Which of course you played physical on offense even, but I mean. The defense was pretty physical too.
I mean, if you have a coach like Dave Arthur kind of hyping you up, he definitely get you in that mindset. So,
there's no doubt. You get into the playoffs and right away you got Clay County team coming out of the mountains who that team was pretty good. And
they were tough.
And they had a lead on you guys, and Juan kind of had the big game, I guess. He had 3 touchdowns, including a big, long 80-yard run. And I've got a recording of that from Dickie. Yeah. And it's, oh, my gosh, you ought to hear it. It's crazy. And, you can't stop the big boy. They can't stop the big boy. He's just screaming it, But Juan had 146 yards rushing in that game, 3 touchdowns. You actually threw for 83 in that game. When that was, by far your best game as far as total yards passing anyway.
You know what? And I think most of it came from a pass to Juan where he ran an additional 40 yards or whatever after catch.
I think that's absolutely right because I remember it's probably just like a little screen pass or a little, quick out. And one, actually, you threw to one a lot in that game because I listened to the game just recently here. I was trying to catch some different things from that season, and I don't know. Did he split one out some every once in a while? I guess you all did, didn't you? Occasionally, because he was, of course, the receiver.
No, we just stayed in the wishbone. It was just kind of like a quick fake, because a lot of times we do a quick cross track, and then either Juan or Hut would just take off out of the backfield, and just and we would just it would just be that pass play because again I think teams got really comfortable that we weren't going to pass, so every now and then just to kind of keep them on their toes, we run that play, just kind of a quick shoot them out of the backfield.
Yeah, I mean, people were definitely stacking the box against you guys. They were bringing 8 people up, and and you all still were able to move the ball, which was really kind of remarkable. The next week you have to go to Belfry, and talk about your tough places to play. That is one of them. And I bet you remember that game pretty well, don't you?
Yeah, definitely remember that game. And I think that's where losing to Belfry the year before actually kind of, came into play. Again, remembering how we felt during that loss and also remembering how tough of a team they were, especially playing them at home. We definitely knew we had to be ready for that one.
Right. And they actually jumped ahead of you guys at halftime. I want to say it was
before that. I think in the first quarter, because one of the pitches I tried to make to Juan, I think was intercepted and ran in for a touchdown. I think another pitch, was fumbled, and then they picked it up, ran for another touchdown. So that's one of those times where, everybody's accountable to each other. Because I remember after the second touchdown, I think it was the fumbled pitch. I remember Charlie Johnson just coming up hey man, get it together. So, and after that, man, it was I settled down, and then we just kind of ran from there.
Yeah, you really dominated them, especially in the second half. And Hud had 166 yards, 2 touchdowns. Thomas had 141 and 2 touchdowns. So there's 300 just with those two guys, and I'm pretty sure there was another 100, 150 between you and Charlie in there, and you guys beat them. End up beating them 35-20. I remember that game too, in that nobody was panicking even after you guys got behind. And this wasn't really necessarily a good. I mean, because you all were a grinded team. You could drive at 80 yards and just pound on people. Wasn't really a come from behind kind of team though, really. Because you didn't throw it much or anything, but nobody panicked in that game. And I think on the road, maybe that win over Ironton came into play a little bit there too. If we can win at Ironton, we can win anywhere.
And I think that kind of goes back to again just trusting each other, trusting that we have our assignments, go out and do your assignment, run the play. And, everything's going to be all right. I mean, because we always factored in that, there's something's going to happen, maybe a fumble, maybe whatever else. But we didn't have to come from behind much that season. But, again, it's just one of those things where kind of going back to that quiet confidence that we knew we could do it. It was just kind of settling into the game.
Right. And like I said, Clay County, I know they were ahead like 15-7 or something like that, and y'all had to come back on them. So really, your first 2 playoff games, you had to come from behind. And of course, Clay County, we didn't talk about the fight over on the sideline. That was just wild. Now, I mean, and I've watched video on it, tried to figure it out, and I'm not sure what all happened over there, but that was pretty ugly, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. There's always kind of a joke we tell of what happened and how it started. And I actually was texting the White Walters right before this and said I'd mention him because he's kind of the alleged person who started the fight. Now, I won't deny or confirm that, but we can go back to the tape. But it was nasty, and luckily it was right before half. So I remember after that fight, we just kind of went into the locker room and, just came out for the second half ready to play. And kind of going back to the thing about coming from behind, or just in general, it's like one of those things where we knew a play would eventually break, like the team would overcommit on somebody or the right play would be called. And, we knew at some point throughout the game a play would break and we'd be right back into it and right back into the swing of things. So I think that's another reason we just never really panicked. So.
Yeah, it was going to be hard to stop you guys. I'm not sure any high school team anywhere could have stopped you all, an entire game, really. I mean, you were going to break one or two, in that game or even if the break means 40 yards or 30 yards. So, speaking of coming from behind, you go into the semifinals now and you have Bell County coming out of the mountains. All three, these are all three mountain teams. Bell County, I think, upset Tomcats the week before. Maybe it was somebody. They upset somebody that they weren't supposed to beat. I can't remember. I think it was Tomcats. But Bell County was good. I don't know if it was an upset or not because Bell County was really good. And coming into that game, when I talked to Coach Marsh here a few weeks ago, he said the coaches kind of knew, this is the state championship. We don't know if we can beat them. We think we can, and we think we have the team to do it. But Bell County's really good, and if we can win this game, we think we can win it. We have we'll have a good opportunity against the winner from the West, whoever that happened to be. And I know he didn't tell that to you guys because coaches aren't going to do that. But that game, I'm telling you, Dave, there must have been, I don't know how many people were at Putnam Stadium that night, but it must have been the whole town because that place was so loud and so packed, and it was really cold that night too. And one of the hardest hitting games I can remember covering too. It really was. What's your memories of that night?
Kind of like to your point. As we were playing, we didn't feel. I guess I'll speak for myself on this one. We weren't thinking, okay, this is the championship game right here. I mean, it felt like that afterwards. But I remember that game just being really, tough. Like you said, they were hard hitting. It was really the scenario. I mean, just the emotion of that game. I mean, everybody put it out on the field, and I think it was. If I remember correctly, that was a game where it was kind of like was it 4th and 1, and we had like a stop and then got the ball back and ended the game. But I mean, the emotion was running high on that one. I think, and once we had that stop, and it was like, I think at that point it was like, okay, we feel good about this. But I think we got the game now, and I think after the game we kind of felt like, okay, that kind of felt like a championship game. I mean, again, not to discredit Lincoln County, but that was probably one of the toughest games that season.
Yeah. You guys were behind, I think, 14-12 and scored like with maybe 5 minutes left in the game to go ahead, 19-14. And then Bell was driving, like you say. I think they were in your all territory even, maybe, like on the 40 or something like that. And I don't recall exactly, but yeah, I remember a big 4th and 1 stop, and it was like there was only like, maybe 2 minutes left or 3 minutes left, and you all knew you could run the clock out, and you were able to do that, and win that game, right. and put Ashland in the state championship for the first time since 1975. When they, things were a little different then. It was just the whole setup was a little bit different, but and you're playing Lincoln County, a team really none of us knew anything about. It's kind of like. Yeah. And you don't even think about those teams in the West as you're playing in the season. I think you are looking at teams in the East. I mean, I'd say Coach Marsh and them were looking over Clay County and Belfry and Bell County and kind of the Northern Kentucky teams, and let's see who we're going to have to beat to get there. That week, I'll back up a little bit. I remember that night when you beat Bell County too. The celebration on the field was really something else.
Oh.
I mean,
right. And I was actually going to bring that up, Mark, because one of the other things I do remember about that game, other than just how tough it was just all the fans pouring onto the field after the game. So that was
yeah.
that was awesome. That was awesome.
Yeah, that was. I mean that field was covered with people, and you guys were jumping up and down, of course, and celebrating, and it was like, hey, we won the state championship, and I know you weren't thinking, hey, we beat Belcane, so we're going to win it. It was just more, I think, just being in the moment. I think of a really emotional, tough, hard-hitting game, and it's like all of a sudden it's like we are in the state championship. It's a pretty good feeling. It's pretty good feeling. And I guess at that point in particular, and maybe that whole week, the talk of we could win the state championship probably really kind of revved up. It certainly did. I know in Ashland, it was the buzz was, it was more than a buzz at that point. So the week leading up, anything crazy happened? Nothing really did it? I mean, it was a pretty ordinary week, I think. Did you all practice up at Marshall maybe on the turf? Do you remember?
No. We practiced normal practice. I don't remember anything being especially crazy. Maybe a couple of I think news crews. I think WSAZ came down and film practice a little bit, interviewed Juan and Coach Morris. I mean, I guess that was probably the only thing that was really different going into the week. And then of course, kind of going up to Louisville the night before, getting to the hotel, trying to stay calm, trying to stay settled, trying to stay into a routine, before the game.
Right.
So,
let me ask this, because I didn't know. I don't know how much you all knew or how much they talked about it. Juan had really injured his knee in that Bell County game. And it was really pretty severe, and he didn't want it known it was severe. And he was going to play. If he played on one leg, he was going to play. And I don't know that we found out it was as bad as it was until after the game, and then a few weeks later he had surgery, and he misses his entire senior baseball season, which, for the most part, baseball was his sport, but he loved playing football. I know that, and kind of, did you all not know about his injury at all, or do you remember that or not?
No, I mean, not to the extent it was. I mean, we knew he got hurt in Bell County, but I don't remember much conversation around the injury after that. We just, he was in practice. We knew he was going to play, and that's kind of, all we knew.
Yeah. Everybody gets dinged up, and you play through it and all that kind of thing. Yeah. So
we didn't know how bad it was. To your point that he needed surgery kind of like right after the season. So.
Right.
Yeah.
I've watched video of that championship game several times, and watching him play, I mean, you wouldn't know he had such a severe injury, because I mean, most of his runs were straight ahead, though. I will say it didn't seem like he was on the Hutt was on the option a lot, but it didn't seem like Juan was. It was mostly dive plays, and he would get 3, 4, 5 yards, like always,
and I think they were keen on him as well.
Yeah, they were. They were trying to take him away. There was no doubt. But he didn't make the cuts, like he maybe would in a normal situation. I mean, I'm just saying hindsight, looking at it now, But at the same time, watching him at defensive end and coming all the way across the field and making plays, I mean, that doesn't look like a guy that was injured at all, No,
he had a couple of sacks in that game as well.
He did. Several. He had, and 2 or 3 just real pressures, where he just missed the guy. I mean, he played. That was a great defensive game, to be honest. I mean, as well as he played against anybody. So I don't know that. It's kind of funny because I interviewed him just a few years ago, and we talked about that, and and I'd forgotten he'd missed his senior baseball season because of the knee injury. But he had the surgery I guess he had surgery in December or something. Of course, he still gets, drafted by the White Sox and all that, which tells you a little bit about how good baseball is.
Exactly.
He was a great player for sure. So I don't know. That's interesting, but that, like you say that the championship game, you could tell early, they're going to do what they can to stop Thomas. They're not going to let Thomas beat them. Basically, is what I think their goal was. Going into it.
Mm-hmm.
And man, that was probably a mistake. It was hard to take any one facet. You could maybe take one facet away from you guys, but you couldn't take them all away. And it didn't take long for Hutt to find some open ground out there.
He took over. He definitely took over.
Yeah, he had a great game. What about those white shoes? Where did they come from?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he mentioned that when you talked to him, but I'm not really sure where they came from. But was watching the game. It was circulating around on Facebook, so I decided to watch it earlier.
Yeah.
And one of the plays that he made, it was I think we did a quick cross trap. He got through the line. He cut in between two Lincoln County players, and they ended up kind of like tackling themselves while he just kind of ran off for the touchdown. It was,
yeah.
It was like, yeah, and then Chuck's contributions as well. I mean, both of those two just took over the championship game.
Yeah, well, Hutt had 175 yards, 3 touchdowns, and Johnson had 126 and 2 touchdowns. So again, 300 yards between them. I think it seemed like Juan had 50 or 60 yards maybe in that game. It wasn't a
right.
typical game, but he also had people keying on him. So.
Yeah, one of the few games he didn't get 100. Probably the only game.
Yeah, it probably was. And of course, the numbers are just staggering. I mean, Juan finished with 1,682, Hutt 1,483, and Charlie 1,270, and they had 39 touchdowns between the three of them. I mean, I don't know what more anybody could have asked from 3 running backs than that, but I'll tell you,
and that's still sitting out the second half of most games. On top of that, especially in the middle of the season.
Absolutely. But I'm telling you, I want to add about 800 yards to yours and take away from those 3 because I don't know how many times you went down.
I appreciate that, Mark. Appreciate that.
I think you would have been a 1,000-yard rusher yourself. You ran for 1,000. You just didn't get credit for it. We were talking about receiving, and your 2 leading receivers were Thomas and Hutt with 5 catches apiece. So kind of interesting there. We talked about that earlier. But just it's a great season and a great team, and I'm telling you that team. We were, of course, we covered it. I covered you all season, and that was just a blast, really. For me, it was just so much fun watching you guys. But I remember watching the 4A final that year, and I can't remember who it was between one of the Louisville schools and somebody. It
was one of the Louisville schools, and I think maybe Warren Central.
I think you're right. Maybe Trinity. I think it's Trinity and Warren Central.
Yeah, Trinity and Warren Central. Yep.
Yeah. And watching that game, we were, because we're still there, we're like, well, might as well, watch a little bit of this game. And I'm thinking, I'm not sure they would beat you, either one of them. At least the way you all were playing, I think you could have won any division that year. I don't know that people could have stopped Ashland. I mean, nobody did all season really. It was just a magical season for sure.
And like you were saying, to the point, like, if a team tried to take away like one aspect, if they keyed on one, then you have Hutt and Charlie, so it was just, you really couldn't stop. And there were certain games they would try to key on Hutt and Juan and kind of leave me to run a few yards, but, and then I'd pitch it off to, either one of them to get more yards. So, I mean, to your point, we just had so many weapons that year, you just really couldn't stop any one aspect of the offense.
And you also had one of Ashland's all-time soccer greats, Clayton Hill, kicking.
Yeah.
Clayton, he brought a different dimension to that team. I'm telling you.
He did.
He was automatic. I mean, he hit all 5 of his extra points in the game against Lincoln. I know, in the state championship game. But Clayton, he's a great guy, and I know he really takes a lot of pride in being part of that team, and anybody that played on it does, of course, all the way through. Vic Marsh, I'm really glad Vic got that one, and and these other coaches too. Like I say, Dave Arthur and Bill Blake, Lee
Coach
Evans, Steve Salyers,
Yeah.
Ron Moore,
Yeah.
Matt Van Hoos, Eric Johnson, and Matt Lambert. That's who I have listed anyway. I hope that's all of them. But just a great season for you guys, and 30 years ago, man. I guess
Wow.
it's time for Ashland to win it again, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I still can't wrap my head around it's been 30 years. But, yeah, to your point, I mean, it was a lot of great memories. Because even watching the state championship again, I mean, like earlier, it just, brought back all the memories. Like I said, great team, great coaching staff, just, really great experience, and just, glad to be a part of, I guess, Ashland history now, so.
Yeah, and honestly, and I didn't even think about it, but with you on the 86 baseball team, not many people have done that, that have, we've only had like 7, I think, Little League state champs, and to be part of that was a pretty cool thing. And I know you guys have a bond that's still there too. I remember, I don't know if you made it up for the reunion they had. I can't remember.
No, I didn't. I saw the coverage and in the paper, but I wasn't able to. I didn't make it back in for that.
Yeah. But I mean, there's when you win it, I think when you win a state championship, isn't there something a little extra that you don't ever forget it, right? I mean, it's something people can't take away from you,
Yeah, and kind of going back to that baseball team, like I said, we won it again. Our 14-year-old year, we won state. But I think at that point, that's as far as you could go. But again, so I think that just kind of speaks to the programs and the type of athletes, that come through Ashland, and just the tradition, that's there.
Right. Yeah, it's and like I said, you definitely had a great run of really good athletes that, were playing at Ashland at that time. And Ashland always has, they always have their fair amount of athletes. There's no doubt about it. They have great, great little league systems, in baseball and football and basketball, and a lot of people to look up to. I think, that kind of help you along, and it's kind of like you don't want to let the tradition down. Is that a factor you think at Ashland as you're going through?
I definitely think that's part of it. I mean, because, to your point, you have that tradition, and you also, that's something that you carry with you. That's something that you're representing. So that's,
right.
You definitely work harder to, to kind of live up to that. And kind of like going back to the 90 team, one of the things that I think we did, kind of going back to being accountable for each other, we made sure we weren't taking shortcuts. Like I said, we were accountable to each other, and just, really work towards, I guess, each other, but also towards that, kind of like that Tomcat tradition. Right. I mean, because I would say the football program is on par with, some of the small football program, and the fans are on par with, some of the, kind of small college programs. Right.
You feel like that anyway, don't you? As far as how the support is and all that, I know I was earlier today.
Yeah, and even Putnam State. I mean, that's a great stadium to play in. I mean, because you go to a lot of these other schools and they just have, like some aluminum bleachers up. So it works, but it's definitely not not Putnam.
Yeah. So your nickname was Bird, is that right?
Yes, that is it.
Is that what all of them called you, or is that just a few of them, or how did that go?
No, I mean that definitely stuck. It's a nickname my brother gave me when I was playing JFL.
Okay. And
the more I fought it, the more he said it. And I remember James Smedley was the announcer of the JFL, which he was in school with my brother at the time, so he started getting James Smedley to say, tackled by Bird Brown, which used to get me really mad as well. So the more I fought it, the more he said it, and then it just stuck. And So that's the nickname.
Now, Hut told me to mention. He said you like to use the dumbbells a lot. the curls. Maybe that's an inside joke with you guys. I don't know, but it's anyway.
Yeah, I mean, in the weight room, I mean, I did like to curl a lot. So that was my go-to exercise. So.
Okay, I got you. Now, are you in Washington still? Are you living in Washington D.C. area?
No, I'm living in the outskirts of Philadelphia. So I was in D.C. So I was in D.C. maybe from mid-'90s to early 2000s. Then so I kind of moved around a little bit. Went to northern New Jersey, and then been in Philadelphia the past last 6 years.
I think I saw you one of those times when the safety patrol trip came through DC, and you were working up there at that time. I remember that. It was probably late '90s, at that time. I was with Rose Hill actually with their school group, and we ran into you. That was very cool to see somebody from Ashland and all that.
Oh yeah,
so,
yeah, and it was always because I think my mom she went on the patrol trip that year, so definitely another reason to come out and see the folks from Ashland and also catch up with my mom while she was there. So
yeah, your mom's a good one. I'm telling you, she's a great lady.
Thank you.
Great lady, no doubt. All right. Well, listen, we've probably gone long enough here, but I've really enjoyed it. I hope you have too, and I know people listening will really like it. It sure brings back a lot of memories for me, and I can't even imagine what it does for you and fans of this team, which there are many. There are many fans of this team. So, anyway, thank you for spending an hour with us, and you've been listening to Tomcat Tales with me and David Brown tonight. We hope you'll join us again next time. Thanks a lot, and
thank you, Mark.
Bye. Mm-hmm.